I'm not exactly sure how to begin describing the content of today's patch. It's half serious stuff, half not serious stuff, and of the not serious stuff that is maybe or maybe not an April Fool's joke, a lot of people actually really love. Yes, today is Tuesday, and we are obviously expecting the addition and return of Super Adventure Box, but some other stuff happened as well. Let's just jump straight in. First of all, many of you, especially those of you who follow very closely, will know that today was the time of a big balance patch. But the balance patch is kind of a bonus one. If you remember, we actually had one very recently that totally retooled the way that the Mesmer works and several other changes. Well, the balance patch today is kind of an extra thing that is targeted specifically for the competitive aspects of the game. That's PvP, that's World versus World. And it's a really great thing that that's come into the game, because I think it signals very clearly to the player base that the devs still care about the competitive aspects of this game, and they will do dedicated balance from that. Even better, look at the amount of stuff there is here. I'm not really lying to you earlier. They really sold this as a bonus balance patch. It originally sounded like it would be kind of small, but there's been an enormous number of changes. Not all of them are obviously going to affect meta, but I do agree with nearly all of them, or the thrust of nearly all of them. Now, I don't mean to disappoint you too much, but the balance-specific stuff, we're not going to get very deep in on this video. I've already recorded a balance with boots that's an hour and a half long, digging into this meaty stuff, and you guys will want to check it out even if you're not into PvP and World versus World, because it's been very clearly stated a lot of the changes that are currently in game now for those formats may come to PvE quickly afterwards when they unsplit the difference, something a lot of people have been asking for. So it's kind of an insight into future buffs for maybe the other areas of the game that you play, like fractals, raids, open world story, all of that stuff. So that's the balance side, and it is pretty enormous, right? But then we do have other stuff as well, and I may as well just jump in. A dramatic and incredible, a bold new feature unseen ever before in this franchise has just been released.
We really wanted to get back to the roots of what made Guild Wars 2 unique and fantastic.
It makes more sense for us to go down the road less traveled.
We're building experiences that are going to last players beyond just kind of one play session.
We want to do something that really stands out.
There's some really cool surprises we're building in. I think there'll be some really interesting things for players to do.
It's also a bit of a gameplay and game style change.
And I think the effect is quite impressive.
One of the big things that separates Guild Wars 2 from a lot of other MMOs is interacting with it.
And there is something that we have been planning for from the beginning of the launch of Guild Wars 2.
This is one of our most requested features, and now it's ready for Guild Wars 2 players.
Okay, so you've been asking for it for years and years now. The most highly requested feature for Guild Wars, sitting in chairs. And funnily enough, you may look at that video and think, oh, it's just a joke for April Fools. They're obviously being a bit tongue-in-cheek and stupid about it. Well, yes, probably, but also it's actually in-game. As much as they may be joking about their sincerity to it being this amazing, incredible feature, they did drop it in this patch. Not even an official big release. Chairs are now sittable all over Tyria. Let's just jump into that here. So below the regular patch notes, they have a section here called Late Notes, and they say Living World Seat of Power. This is episode 3, guys. The Seat of Power, and they say this. It's all very tongue-in-cheek, April Fool's style. Those fans of Guild Wars 1 will remember that they used to do extensive patch notes and updates that were all jokes. Well, we get a bit of that here. They haven't done really anything April Fool's-y quite recently. 2017, they didn't do anything. 2016, they didn't. And going back, really, they've not been very inspired. But this year, they really seem to have. So check this out. Since the day we began working on Guild Wars 2, we had a single dream guiding us. to allow the player to jump over small fences. And, you know, there's probably a half-truth in that, because allowing the player to jump was a pretty big part of making Guild Wars 2. They say, but if we had to pick a close second, it was to add chairs, and maybe let players sit in them. In that distant past, the technology wasn't ready for our vision. When Guild Wars 2 released, the land of Tyria had chairs, and it had sitting, but players were unable to gracefully combine the two. Over time, stopgaps were implemented, like sitting as a chair. That's true, they had the furniture tonic, and riding mounts, referred to in the engine code as non-stationary chairs. But the dream of a complete chair experience remained in the realm of speculative science fiction until now. You guys will have seen the wind blowing if you've been watching closely. Wing 5, which came out not too long ago, actually added an ultra rare drop, the Throne of Doom. Currently, well, last I saw it was worth about 1,700 gold if you got a lucky drop from Doom. Exactly the kind of cool raid rewards I like. And that allowed people to sit. That showed you what the sitting animations would be like. The most recent Living World update from just a week or two ago, Daybreak, actually it's longer than a week or two ago now, but on Daybreak you got to see some Char sitting in chairs. That shaman did some mining and realized that there was anchor points that had been added to many other chairs in the game, and well, the patch itself is finally here. And as much as people joke, it has been something requested a lot by role players and so on. For me personally, as WP, I don't really care that much about chairs, but it will be nice. It will be a good addition to the LP I'm doing right now as well, to actually be able to sit around and do things. So they say, we're overjoyed to announce that for the second time in Guild Wars history, players can sit in chairs across the continent. That raid throne is more like one chair in multiple places, though, which is awesome, but now we're talking about over 1,400 chairs spread across 6 cities, 5 home instances, and 1 raid lobby. Plus, some of those chairs are benches, which are like 2 chairs for the price of 1. I know that this is all a big joke, but I really think that that's probably legit, right? The 1,400 chairs comment that someone actually went through and had to hook that up. That's insane. The future of chair sitting is bright, they say. We're working hard to investigate chair sittability for other zones, figure out the bar booths built entirely out of non-chair objects, and support more chair models. Get in the game and see the future happening now. You paid for the whole seat. Today, you can finally use it. So this is for real. I even remember this being a joke when Heart of Thorns was coming out, people asking them at TwitchCon. Furniture Polish, Lion's Arch, Furniture Polish, that's even a pun, added sittability to 188 chairs. This is the site of the first sittable chair from which all others derive. The king of chairs, it's a secret which one it is. They've got Ratasum, added 28 chairs. Realistically, the Asura could already sit on most objects comfortably. It's one of their many racial advantages. And that's true, actually. If you were a role player, you could just stand on a lot of the previous chairs and just do /sit. But now everybody gets basically even better quality of life version. We've got the Applied Development Lab, that's our home for the Asura. Added sittability to 7 chairs for when you need a break from lab work, harvesting resources. Black Citadel, they've done 153. Not only there are a lot of quality chairs here, many of them include miniaturized Iron Legion coal furnaces for heating. A truly first-class chair experience for the discriminating Legionnaire. It's funny because the chairs there look always really uncomfortable. I'm curious to see what those animations are like. Maybe I'll throw that in the footage in the background. The Heroes Canton added sittability to 106. This is the Char home instance. We wrote added sittability to 106 chars 5 times before we got it right, but that would be pretty cool too. Divinity's Reach got 292. 90% of them are hidden inside random buildings. We spent countless hellish hours finding new chairs hidden away in the 3rd-story corners of secluded houses. We opened up someone's house to passing tourists as well because it has a lot of nice chairs. Really? Oh, I wonder whether they're talking about one of the personal story-only instances before that now the door can open. The Salma District, that's the home. 79 chairs, you can finally sit at the bar. We've been anticipating this since launch day. Holbrack, the undisputed capital of sitting furniture clocks in with a record-shattering 547 chairs. Legends say that one day the mighty Norn will sit in every chair in Holbrack and then lead their people to victory against Jormag. That's amazing as well because the Norn have the most chairs in their home city, but also, let's face it, looked the worst when you tried to squeeze them into chairs before this update. The Hunter's Hearth for the Norn, 10 chairs. But listen, if you're looking for some chair time after a long hunt, just step out of the doors and into the chair centre of Tyria. The Grove got 43. It might seem kind of sad after that Holbrack number, but perhaps the Sylvari simply prefer sitting on the ground. It's good enough for the Pale Tree after all. The Dreamer's Terrace had 5. Okay, no, it's actually sad. Lion's Arch Aerodrome added sittability to 1 chair. We don't expect that all players will be able to sit in this highly exclusive, challenging, non-group chair content, but that's the price of prestige. Added an incredible new collection quest achievement spanning the world of Tyria to sit in every currently available chair type. Finally, a reason to visit Holbrack. That's stinging there. And so that patch note I'll linger on for a second. This is true. There is a new collection in the game to find all the different varieties of chair and sit in them. You can kind of cheat it with guild halls because all the guild hall scribable chairs are also you can sit in, so that actually opens up a lot of doors for people who care about that stuff in their guild halls. But you can also sort of cheat the achievements if you've got a lot of storage. But yeah, there's a new collection. It's a bit like the gardening collection they added recently, except this one isn't locked behind the Black Lion gem store. It's a reason to go and have a tour of Tyria again. You might find that Boots and I do a video on it like cats, if it's entertaining enough. If we try it and it's not entertaining, then don't hold your breaths. But we might find it fun to travel the world and find all the chairs to sit in. So they also say this, you can do more than sit in chairs, you can gesture while sitting in chairs. You can't /sit while you sit, but a carefully curated handful of the game's emotes are available while sitting. And these allow you to wave, to cheer, to shrug, to cross your arms, to laugh, to say thank you. But wait, there's even more chairs. Your guild halls are also receiving the seating treatment with the following chairs, and they list all of those out. ArenaNet is not liable for injury, death, entombment in solid rock, or similar gruesome fates that may result from unsafely placed chairs. And yeah, then they say fix the bug that caused sittability to not be a real word, according to the spell checker. If you complain about it now, you're incorrect, sorry. And while we're at it, if you don't want to hear anyone griping about the exact chair counts per map, if we see posts tomorrow like, I counted every chair in Holbrack and ArenaNet was off by 1, GG, it's going to send us into a very deep depression. So there you have it, guys. That is Living World, the new episode, Seat of Power. I don't know. I mean, it's all pretty tongue-in-cheek, and I think it's a nice update. I like what the devs are doing here, if I can be really dry and boring and nerdy for a second, in that this was probably a ton of effort for, frankly, very little reward that genuinely, in my opinion, doesn't affect the core systems of the game too much. But role players will be very happy, and it's one of those things where people ask for it constantly, so maybe it will have a lot of worth, right? But it does sound like a lot of effort, and by doing this tongue-in-cheek post, it's kind of like they can make us all aware of what they went through to deliver this to the game, and sort of use the tongue-in-cheekness as a shield. So, yes, that is one of the big things that's come into the game. There are other general changes too, along with the balance. Let's go through that as well. And, yeah, I guess in the background you'll just see me running around sitting in chairs, but not so many that I go on the adventure without Boots here for you today. We'll try and save that. So, yes, there's that. Then there's the Super Adventure Box coming up, which, by the way, I wonder whether they have, like, super chairs that you can sit in. Maybe they can do that as a new toy category or something as well. I guess we'll have to see. So, Moto's world-renowned Super Adventure Box returns again when the Super Adventure kicks off on March 29th. So, as I record this video, by the way, it's just become the 28th. It's just past midnight as I speak into this microphone. So, it is live in the patch, but as we know with the decorations, they actually toggle it on and off live without needing to push a build now. If you stand, therefore, in Ratasum at the perfect time where Super Adventure Box lands, you'll see it unfold in, or you'll see the gate open, I guess. It's a bit of a boring festival in terms of decorations, right? But, yeah, so that doesn't actually start until tomorrow or 2 days, depends on when you're watching this video. Explore the 2 worlds of excitement, peril, and educational entertainment to earn holographic weapons and a variety of loot. Odds on World 3 this year seem extremely low, just as they were last year. Official statement from the devs has not budged that it would be a huge amount of effort, so it's probably not going to happen. Maybe one year eventually they will surprise us. Maybe this year even they'll still surprise us. We get chairs and Super Adventure Box World 3, but I don't really see anyone holding hope, and I think I would question someone who is. I'm happy to eat my hat if I'm wrong. Festivities begin on March 29th. And there are some changes. Okay, so they've changed the achievement categories. There is a new one called Nostalgia. It contains repeatable and once per year achievements for SAB. So I think they've standardized that with the new Halloween setup, with the new Winter's Day setup, and that's all of the festivals now, I think, that are all under the new system, which is very good. They've also done some other changes. Moto's inventory of rewards has been split into 2 separate vendors, accompanying him outside the box and inside its hub area. There are new super consumable items that are also available. Don't know what the super consumable items will be. Are we talking like toys and fireworks style stuff, or are we talking like food and utilities and maintenance? I don't know. That would be kind of interesting if they had Super Adventure Books themed versions of that. They're not scared to do it with Winter's Day or with Halloween, right? So why not, I guess? Here's a big one, and something that I raise my hand smugly to the air and say I called a while ago. There is a new race event that was added for the Super Adventure Box Hub. Show off your progress in jumping-based education. So it seems that the current events team has put races onto all of them now. And so this is in the hub, which is fascinating, actually, because if you guys remember the Super Adventure Books Hub, it's actually quite small. It's an isolated island surrounded by the clouds. It has the cave in the bottom underneath. It has a fountain. There's like that conga line of Super Adventure Books characters that come out and do a march around it. But there wasn't much room there. And now we hear that in the hub, there is a race. That's very exciting because I think it could mean that the hub itself has grown a lot bigger. We may not get World 3, but we might get a bigger or expanded hub. If we don't, then this race around the hub is going to have some kind of mechanic that takes us out into the clouds and stuff, surely, right? Without having to go into the hidden cave. Hopefully you guys understand what I mean without relevant footage in the background. But I'm very excited to see the new hub. Just hearing that there's a race there, the patch notes don't say there is a whole new hub, but it feels like there might be. I guess we'll see what they do. And frankly, just the application of mounts and all the new movement tech they have in the game, going back to SAB, can you imagine how cool some of the stuff would be there? I mean, a race. Think about the size of the Divinity's Reach race or whatever. It'd have to be a big area, no? Then there's another pretty exciting thing too here. Portals leading travelers to the Super Adventure Box Hub have been temporarily activated in all major cities for the duration of the festival. Enjoy the sights and sounds of Ratasum's most popular invention, but remember to play safe and avoid violating Peacemaker regulations. So we'll actually have an entrance to SAB in the Black Citadel and Holbrack and whatnot, with all the new chairs, guys. So that's nice. I think any opportunity to realistically bring a festival to all the cities instead of just one seems alright in my book. So yeah, I guess we'll visit it from some of those other places, and when the patch goes live, I'll show you guys what that looks like. There's a ton of bug fixes with SAB. You guys can pause the video if you like and have a look at them on screen here. Some of them are interesting. One of them in particular, if you check this out, the Tribulation Mode spear traps, which are kind of there to designed to troll you and force you into these ridiculous memory games, which is kind of the point of Tribulation Mode. They've changed now, so once you get killed by a certain set of Tribulation spikes, they will always be visible. That might not sound like much, guys, but if you're listening to me and you've never played Tribulation Mode, or you've tried it and decided it wasn't for you, trust me, this has opened the windows massively for mainstream appeal to Tribulation Mode. So if you've ever written it off before, this year try it, because I promise you, it will feel like a very different and much more doable experience when you can see where those spikes are through trial and error, instead of like the infuriating grind that it was before. Because it relished the grind before, I guess they're changing their perspective on what Trib should be. Another big one as well is stowing no longer is a stun break, so you can't use that like animation cancel to climb uphill in water and do other little tricky things. Instead, it's heal potions that once you've tiered them up give you the stun break, which design-wise is probably a lot smarter and more worthwhile. Then there are obviously a lot of other things that you guys can pause and check those out if you guys would like. So it's not just SAB, regular changes as well. I'll give you guys some of the interesting ones. We have world polish. Lots of world polish for the new map, which as we all know is a little bit buggy. It does all these new interesting things with the boat that sails around and with the elevators and all that. Elevators have been my go-to example far too much, haven't they? Conveyor belts and gravity and all that lot, right? So it has been a bit of a buggy patch. There's even more changes and refinements going through there. I have to admit, this episode is probably the Living World release most of all for a long time. I haven't played that much, but I blame my PvP addiction on that rather than the Sandswept Isles themselves. Maybe that and the fact it's always raining on the Sandswept Isles. We have a change to Blood-Tide Coast, which is related to a personal story related dynamic event that can spawn based on your character, and apparently if you were gliding nearby it would totally break the whole thing. Improvements to various Corteria maps. Again, you guys can pause if you like. Some of them are things that I've ran into. Some of them I've never heard of before at all. You might find the Iron Marches one here really interesting. The Sentinel Rifle can no longer instantly kill branded creatures that are at level 60 or higher. Yeah, this was a consumable in-game I did know about years ago. That you could use to insta-kill champions and all kinds of stuff. But I kind of forgot about it and wasn't interested in it And if you actually think about it, with the Path of Fire expansion release, with all the super high level branded, we have high level brand now, and that could have been used in all kinds of crazy ways in Path of Fire, I guess. Unless you couldn't take the rifle off of Iron Marches, I'm not sure. But yeah, so that's been fixed. And they refined a few places with invisible walls and mount access and gliding access. On to general changes. I'm actually kind of excited by some of this. Let's have a look. First of all, Hero Panel now opens to the tab it was when it last closed. I know that sounds stupid, but in some of the streams and things I've done now, I'm actually really enjoying this because I can open directly onto the build panel. It's not build templates, okay, and I'm not claiming that it's anywhere near the quality of life build templates can or hopefully will give us. But this is nice for quickly swapping traits. Trust me, you just press H, you swap a trait, you go back in. Especially for that dungeon kind of experience where you kill a single set of stuff and then you quickly want to re-specialize. This actually adds a lot of quality of life and might help people do those interesting videos based on that kind of content. So there's that. Performance improvements to people with tons of stuff unlocked in the wardrobe. That's also nice for me. I always feel like I get much higher frame rate on new accounts, and maybe this explains why. This is an exciting one. I don't know the full details yet. I'm not sure whether the internet has dug enough yet. Let's read it out verbatim. Merchants that change what they offer every day should have a better randomization of their available items. In some cases, this could cause them to offer new items that they've never sold before. So that means you, Priory Historian Elisa. That is a mastery-related feature that was an utter dud, in my opinion, from Heart of Thorns. But if they're updating it, they can salvage the system, and I think that's really exciting. So we'll see what they do there. And then just some other sort of minor changes. Again, you guys can pause if you like. Moving on to fractals. People who didn't like the new fractal idea with the more random instabilities, they've culled out some of the issues. They've been looking at changing some of those. I haven't been playing a lot of fractals recently, so it doesn't bother me too much. Apparently in raids, there was a bug where Doom could be teleported into the air, and I had no idea. Some personal story fixes. And finally, they made a change to Blood Rubies, Petrified Wood, and Jade Shards from the last season to now just be consumable items that give unbound magic instead of needing to salvage them. I was one of those losers that liked the flavor on needing to salvage them, but I guess the way that ArenaNet has done it here also makes sense. And now that's all standardized. I know a lot of people won't care about that anymore because it's not Season 3 anymore, it's Season 4. But for those going back through Season 3, there you go, you finally get that bone to chew on. A few more small things to talk about just before we round the video out here. First of all, PvP. They got, and World vs. World as well, both got 4 new of the Mistforged Obsidian weapon set. I know a lot of people didn't like the old ones, like the staff looked a bit weird, but some of the ones look really good now. I actually love the shield that they've added at the moment. So if you play primarily those game modes, you get 4 more skins you can go for. That's a lot of playtime if you want all of them. And too often lately, they're adding new skins that aren't Black Lion skins and going ignored, so yay. They do have a legitimate late patch notes section as well, and I don't mean the chair joke. It's here, again, mostly inconsequential stuff. What really catches my eye here is to do with bounty targets, which obviously are a big part of PvE at the moment if you like open world stuff. So, unstable magic ability icons. So, like the gambits and the specific different effects that different bounty targets can have, they are displaying, again, in their own row in the user interface. So, they're not constantly getting shuffled around by condies and boons and things. And you can actually look at what stuff's going on easily with your mouse over. I actually like that. And then there's the other things there that you can pause. Lastly, rounding the video out is Black Lion. And something I actually didn't expect the devs to do, but I think they've handled quite well here. We will see how the community reacts, but I think it's alright. First of all, new die set, returning old stuff. We don't care, but listen to this. The employees of the Black Lion stables have left the continent behind and scoured the Isle of Istan and beyond to make a whole new collection of mounts available to you. The new Istani Isles mount licenses are available in 2 varieties, and the collection contains a total of 15 new cosmetic options. There are 3 new of each mount. With this collection, we're introducing an option to purchase specific mount skins from this collection based on feedback from the community. Players will be able to obtain these skins from the Istani Isles Mount Adoption License or the Istani Isles Mount Select License. So, yes, the mount thing has returned. They've done 2 very intelligent things, though. Number 1, they haven't added all of the new mounts to the old bucket. If they had done that, your chance of getting the one you wanted would be lower and lower and lower, encouraging you to gamble more and more and more. And that's what early thinking was. Instead, they've given us a whole new bucket, and the new bucket has half the amount of skins as the old one. So before, you've got double chance to get the one that you want this time, because there's only 15 that you're rolling the dice for. And then on top of that as well, they did the main thing everyone was asking for. They allow us to buy a specific mount. So there are actually 3 things that they've done very well there. The thing is, to buy the specific one costs you 1,200, while buying just a single RNG-based one only costs you 400. And I think if anyone's gonna complain about this now, it's that, oh, they should cost the same price for dedicated select versus RNG. But I think if we live in the real world for a second, we can see that this is something to earn the money. I haven't actually done an update video on this just yet. It's something I want to talk on in a state of the game production. But ArenaNet started earning massive money after Path of Fire based on the quarterly reviews, and it's probably somewhat to do with this, don't you think? Yeah, another selection there. I'll show you some of the previews in the background as obviously this video was going along. It'll be interesting to hear what you guys think, but this is the decision that they have gone with. So there you have it, guys. That is the big patch, which, you know, all I was expecting was a bit of PvP world versus world balance, and we got all of this out of it instead. So pretty solid stuff. I will be back probably tomorrow for the huge hour-and-a-half long discussion of all the fun, exciting stuff that's going on the balance side that, again, could end up in PvE. So do be sure to check that out. And by the time we're done with that, we should be just in time to see what these new Super Adventure Box races and stuff are. It feels like there's so much going on. And as a special little note, thank you to everyone who is still sticking with the LP. When I put episode 1 out, a lot of people were really excited about it and shared their enthusiasm. And to those of you who are still sticking it out, and especially have got to the Charles story and whatnot, it really, really means the world to me. Thank you, everybody. And I hope to be able to deliver all this regular news and that at the same time. Audiobook's still pending. Whew. It's going to be a good one. Cheers, everybody. Hope you have a good evening. I'll see you shortly.